Hi everyone, today I thought I would finally share some animal rights books that I think are really cool. A lot of people want to learn about animal rights, but they have like no clue how to get into the conversation because it is a very large conversation. Like animal rights very much does go hand in hand with like human rights as well as environmental rights and the planet, saving the planet. So I wanted to share these books in case if you wanted to learn more about the topic. I have said before how I much rather read online for animal rights and for other political topics. However, for these books, it's really useful for like deep thinking, and a lot of animal rights does require you to be like deep thinker, philosopher mode, so hopefully these help a lot. But anyway, getting into it finally. Dominion, the power of man, the suffering of animals, and the call to mercy. I thought this would be a really great book to recommend because a lot of people just feel like they have the right to control animals and they feel like God made the earth, therefore they are allowed to do whatever they can with it. But in reality, that way of thinking is very selfish. Yeah, we do have a lot of power as people, but because we have that power doesn't mean we have the right to abuse the power, you know? Like, we should still want to be good people and try to end suffering for people, but also animals as well. We should want to care for the planet, for our environment, because this is our home. There's actually a quote I saw, I think, in a poem once that said how when all the trees are cut down and the rivers are all dry, you will realize that you can't eat money, and that is so true. Next up is A Plea for the Animals, the moral, philosophical, and evolutionary imperative to treat all beings with compassion. I feel like this is a really great book to mention because a lot of people, they're okay with giving compassion to dogs and cats, but then they just draw the line there. Like, no other animals are allowed to be taken care of or loved. So I think this is a really important book to read because it's a plea for the animals, not just some animals. All animals deserve to be treated with kindness. And of course, I recommend reading Animal Liberation, the classic animal rights book to read. But of course, animal rights doesn't just mean not hurting animals or not destroying their home they live in. It also means not eating them. However, one big reason why people don't care about animals and the planet is mainly because they just think animals are dumb. Like, they don't worry about saving the polar bears. They don't worry about saving dolphins or fish or any creature that could be suffering in any way because they just think, well, animals are dumb and they have no soul. They have no feelings. So a really good book I would recommend to read would be The Inner Life of Animals, because you will see how animals actually interact very much so like people do. We both share emotions. We both build relationships with each other. And as a person who has spent lots of time with animals like horses, dogs, cats, and even birds, over time I have come to see animals as just humans in like fursuits, kind of, because a lot of animals just act so intelligent, they behave so similar to us that I'm like, wow, we're not that different, we just have different bodies. And even in evolution, the way we evolve is very similar, you know? So it's like we kind of are all the same, we just have different intelligence levels and different bodies. But at the end of the day, we all feel love, grief, stress, fear. Another good book to read would be Understanding Animal Abuse, a Sociological Analysis. This is a really important book to take note of because a lot of people defend animal abuse and they think it's okay to kick a dog or even harm horses, harm cats, or other animals. But in reality, people who harm animals are more likely to harm people. So if you see somebody hurting animals, just know that eventually they may hurt people. Hurting animals always seems to bite people back. I never really believed in karma, and I still don't really. However, I just think it's crazy how every time animals get hurt, something bad starts to affect people. What I've noticed is that a lot of people who don't have compassion for animals, it is simply because that person didn't have a pet ever in their life, or because they were just taught that animals have no feelings, So I think the more education that we have on the topic, the better off we'll be. The longer people think that animals have no emotion, the longer people think that animals deserve no respect, the longer suffering will last for. A good example of this would be how a lot of people think fish have no feelings, so they just harm fish and don't think twice about it. But in reality, fish do feel pain. Pain is actually an evolutionary response. If fish didn't feel pain, they would never defend themselves. They would never have fear or worry about being hurt because they wouldn't feel pain. A really good book to read would also be The Uninhabitable Earth, Life After Warming. This book basically just deep dives into what the Earth is going to be like in the future if nobody stops the terrible events that are happening right now, like global warming and deforestation and basically every other really bad, massive problem, like even pollution, you know? Because eventually karma will catch up to us. It will. And we will see the damage if nobody does anything about it. It's really sad to read books that explain to you how the future will look, because I think it really wakes you up because you're like, oh, this is reality. Things could get a lot worse. But sometimes it's needed to see these things. And this book does a really great job at explaining the morality of eating animals and the problems with it. In case you didn't know, a lot of people seem to like blame vegans for deforestation because they're like, guess what? Deforestation happens so we could build soy farms. However, a lot of these soy farms are built to make food for cattle, which are going to be slaughtered to feed lots of people. The cattle industry is a huge, huge problem, and it's just terrible how people try to paint the vegans as the bad ones for simply wanting to improve the environment. I would also recommend reading The Sixth Extinction, An Unnatural History, because humans will eventually be the reason why humans go extinct, because there is not enough empathy. There isn't enough thinking going on. A lot of people just are really selfish and they don't care about other species. And because of that, it's hurting humans. Because when you are destroying the planet to benefit you, you're now damaging the animals, but now as karma, pretty much, you're also damaging yourself. And it's really, really tragic. Like, all of the problems I could think of that people have is because of humans. Like, humans are causing their own problems with the planet, with forests, with everything. So when people don't care about animals, they're basically saying they don't care about themselves. Because now the earth is pretty much on fire because nobody wanted to think about the consequences of their actions. So it's really important that we find ways to stop this before it gets any worse. We've already lost enough species. We've already damaged the world enough. It's time to think, what's more important, making more money or keeping animals and people alive and healthy? I thought this was a really important book to include in here because people don't realize how important everything on Earth is. The forests, the trees, the water, different environments, different animals, people, everything goes hand in hand. So when there is problems, it really does affect everybody. Nature is all around us, so it's really important we protect it and take care of it the best we can. This book is a really great book because it's illustrated and it explains things really, really well. It's not boring at all. Science could be hard to learn sometimes because it just feels so serious. And although this book still is serious and does dive into deep or even difficult conversations, it does it in a way where it's still very intriguing. But that is pretty much it for today. I will see you guys next week. Bye!